Okay, so let's switch gears a little bit. We're going to backtrack. We had a question come in, Uncle Bruce, that was related to the previous discussion topic in terms of the economy. Just to recap, the premise that your human biology has an economy that if we modeled it on, we would have a much more sustainable system, as you put it. So having all the cells basically covered on a fundamental level, and then after that being able to accumulate wealth. So just to kind of recap, but the question that came in, actually specifically, the question is, does this thought doesn't it create socialism? And in the second part of that question is, who decides where the extra energy goes in the human body?
Okay, socialism. Very interesting, because that's a word when it pops up in politics, everybody goes, oh my God, socialism, socialism. And I think the problem is they equate that with communism. Communism means everybody gets the same, everybody does the same, everybody has the same jobs, kind of thing like that. And everybody is equal. So the janitor and the medical doctor get the same salary, and that everybody is equal in regard to the economic support of the system. Well, in a world like that, it doesn't work very well, because why should I work extra hard and be a medical doctor when I can get the same money just sweeping the floor and having the rest of my life be real easy? In other words, why should anybody try to do anything better if everybody's always equal no matter what you do? Motivation is a very important part of our world. If I want to improve my status beyond just, remember we talked about 3 levels. The first level of economics is everybody gets the basics of life. Great, I have the basics of life, but maybe I want to buy a Tesla. I go, well, that's not in the basic economy. You can't get that. I say, yeah, but if you want a Tesla, what the hell are you going to do? And I say, well, you've got to make more money. You got to do something to contribute in a different way. In communism, it doesn't make a difference what you do. You're still going to be always in the same place. Socialism is just that there's a sharing in a community of wealth to promote the health and vitality of the community. Now, you go, in the US, the word socialism freaks a lot of people out. Oh, social medicine, like Medicare. What's wrong with that, okay? And yet what's interesting, well, everybody's going, well, I hate socialism. Recognize a very important fact. Public education in the United States is socialism. Why? Everybody can go to school. It's all supported by the community. The school is supported so that everybody can go to school. And I go, oh, wow, socialism, not bad. In this particular case, in regard to healthcare, socialism, not bad. Taking care of the roads so we can all use them is not based on any individual that says, this is my road, I'm fixing the road. It's socialism. I pay taxes, you pay taxes, and with that money, we can create the roads and take care of them. So the first thing is to take the stigma off of socialism. Socialism doesn't mean that I can't go out and make extra money, that I have to, get the same salary as the janitor or whatever it is, and no, there's no advancement. That's not true. Socialism is a major part of community. That social, being part of the community, is the root of socialism. And so the biggest issue is, again, confusing communism and socialism. I'm clearly not into communism. No, because motivation goes out the window. Why should anybody work harder if everybody gets the same thing anyway? So all of a sudden I say, no, that's not where we are. Socialism is providing from your income some income to increase the quality and character of life of the entire population, be that education, be that healthcare, be that infrastructure. And so while we balk at the word socialism, we depend on socialism. So we really have to take the stigma off of socialism. What's wrong with socialism? As long as it allows individuals to pursue a future that could be exciting. Because if people are encouraged to pursue new ideas, new technologies, new ways of doing things, that means there's a drive force for the individual to try and do that, because there's going to be some remuneration. There's going to be some consequence of, if you contribute something great, you're going to get something back. In communism, not true. You can contribute all you want. You're still going to get the same salary as everybody else has got. So I think that the important part is to take the stigma off of socialism. Recognize even in the U.S., where the word socialism freaks out the conservatives because they're looking to take care of themselves. They don't care about taking care of the rest of the people. Why? Conservatives have fear of their own survival. And so giving money for helping other people to a conservative is like, why should I give away the money? I need the money to take care of myself. So conservative people don't push social reform because they're very much, I need to protect myself. Why should I give away this money to somebody else? So we have to redefine what the heck all this means. And in the process, if we eliminate the fear, then socialism is not a negative thing at all. Socialism just said, yeah, I like to go to public school. Yeah, you know, if we put enough money into the public school, then everybody gets a good education. If everybody gets a good education, the entire community is uplifted. If I save my money because I just want my kid to have a good education, screw your kid, then the community, that's a breakdown of the community. So socialism is, we're already doing it to some degree. We just didn't label education as socialism, but it is. And if you start to recognize it, well, what's wrong with that? The answer is nothing. And all of a sudden we start to say, maybe we shouldn't have knee-jerk reactions when the word socialism shows up, because socialism is a hallmark that holds a community together. If we were not social, then everybody would be living in their own little cave, barricaded and fortified to protect you from everybody else with their own little cave. And I go, that's the complete opposite. That's not what we're looking for. And therefore, when we provide money for public good, that means for the public good. That doesn't mean you provide money and tell somebody else what they have to do. No, you provide money for public use, roads, schools, healthcare, education, all these different things. Now that I've gone on my little soapbox about that whole idea, Alex, did I question? Let me know.
I think so, Uncle Bruce. It is a very important topic to discuss, and especially with the theme of how things are so out of balance, or we're coming out of a paradigm where it's really just about that separation or that division from one side or the other in every aspect of things. I heard a really interesting quote at one point related to socialism, and it was about the balance of all these different isms. So it goes something like this, where socialism without capitalism is communism. But then capitalism without socialism is fascism, or leads to these things. So in a way, it's like we need to have some sort of balance between all of these aspects. And I think maybe in relation to the other part of the question that our other attendee asked about who decides where everything is accumulated, or who gets the wealth when it's redistributed and everything like that. We're coming from the thinking of an old paradigm where there is that division, and there are individuals who actually decide on what is going on. But the new paradigm is much more about this holistic community, not a communistic community, as you really well described, I think, in your point, but more about the feelings and the intuition that comes from when everybody works together for a common goal. That's really what the definition of cooperation is all about. So the new paradigm is a cooperation thing, and we need to have some sort of balance and harmony of these economic policies in a new way. So it's a work in progress, I imagine.
I appreciate your input on that, Alex, especially the quote. I really appreciate that, because this is what we have to face right now. Are we being run by individuals with money who decide what the hell they want because it's their money, and they're not really interested in the rest of the population? You know, Zuckerberg and Facebook doesn't give a damn about who's on Facebook as long as he makes money off of Facebook. He doesn't care giving that information away and destroying privacy. It's not relevant to him. When people have that much money, they're so disconnected. But if they become leaders of the world, then their leadership is based on their personal interest and desire. I'm not going to say Trump, but, you know, it's possible that that's where the problem is coming from. When people with that much money, they're only interested in their own future, not the rest of the people. So We have to bring in all the people. And then you start to realize, well, God, with a massive population, there are so many profound different beliefs that you have extremes at one end, extremes at the other end. But what was interesting in research on populations revealed that if you take the votes, attitudes, beliefs of an entire population, you'll find it's like a bell-shaped curve where there are extremes at either end, but the mass of the people are in the center. And guess what they find out? That the mass of people in the center generally have the correct ideas and the correct answer. Not the extremists at either end, but it's the ones in the middle. And it's interesting. I remember that this was from research from this guy, Francis Galton, who was Darwin's, I think, nephew, who was studying eugenics at the time. Eugenics are, hey, why shouldn't the upper class be the ones that have all the kids and the lower class not have the kids? Because the upper class are so well endowed genetically, so it was all of a sudden basing people on their genes. That was BS, belief system. And the simple reality is what caught his attention once, and this is where it started, was in England at these fairs, they have a contest to guess the weight of a bull in its dressed form, meaning you're going to sacrifice the bull and then through butchers cut it up into usable parcels, and then they say what would be the weight of the usable bull after it's sacrificed. So it's sort of like counting the jelly beans in the bottle. Take a guess of what do you think this is going to be. Of course, there was a whole range of guesses, some way too high, some way too low. You know what was interesting? The average guess of the entire population was within ounces of the entire weight. In other words, well, there was a whole radical range of how much weight there was going to be. In the average, counting everybody's participation, that in the average, it hit it almost exactly on the head. And that brought up the idea, which has been tested since then, that, yeah, there's extreme views of everything, but then generally there's a middle ground. And that if you start to go to the middle ground of that population's perception, you start to find the more accurate answers. So when it comes to socialism, we say, well, who's going to make the decisions? Well, if you have an autocratic leader at the top that says, I make the decision because this is what I believe in, then you've got an extreme point of view running the system. This is why elections are so important. But then again, if people fail to be involved in the election, then the outcome could be swung one way or the other off of the medium. So for example, in the last election, what small percent of the Americans voted that ended up with Donald Trump as the president? Does he represent all of the Americans? I go, well, I think it was less than about 20% or something like that of the voters. They go, where are the rest of the voters? Well, their vote didn't count. So if there's no participation of the voters, there's an opportunity for the system to swing to extremes one way or the other. But if all the voters collectively decided to vote, as Francis Galton's ideas revealed, that the center point of that entire population is the most accurate conclusion to evolve from. That whatever the mass center point is, this is a collective awareness of an entire population and should be there. So therefore, while we have a democracy here in the United States, and we are all given the opportunity to put our opinion in, if you don't vote, you don't count. And when we looked at the last election, we found there was a large percentage of that voting block came from an extreme end of the curve. And then all of a sudden you realize, well, now the things are way the hell out of balance. And so when it comes to socialism, everybody can offer some ideas, but it really should come down to what does the population collectively agree upon? And it turns out from the numbers and statistics, the median consideration of the median point in that population is almost always the best choice. But if you don't vote, you don't participate, then it could swing to radical extremes. as we have seen, especially in the last election. So it says, we don't want these kind of problems, then we must get the population involved, excited, and participating in creating the future. And that's where socialism comes from. The vote doesn't go to the individual, it goes to the population. Should we do X or Y? Oh, what does the population say? If you don't ask the population, you only look at individuals, the whole thing could be totally skewed. So it's a wake-up call, and I think we're going to see a consequence of this wake-up call in the next election, because people start to realize, oh my God, I didn't vote, and my opinion was useless in what is unfolding. And this is encouraging a lot of activism, which is really cool, because what we want is the collective opinion of the mass of the population, and not the viewpoints of radicals on either side of the polarity, which shouldn't exist in the first place.